That's what it is. Online.
Yeah, it's like when I complain about Nick outside.
Right, exactly. And although I never do that, exactly.
Okay. We're ready. Good morning and welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Kathy Cacavalli and I want to welcome you to our spiritual home. Welcome to everyone in this room and to those joining from online. We are so glad you are here. Of course, I have a few announcements this morning to share. If you are a visitor, please join us for an in-person or virtual orientation and tour today. The in-person orientation and tour is happening immediately following the 11:15 service. You can meet us in the library right outside and to the left. The online tour will happen at 1 p.m. on Zoom. You can find the link in the pastoral update email from this morning or at www.muuf.org/virtual. Scroll down to Sunday's events. Also at that webpage, you can find the Zoom link to Lunch with Your Principals. This Monday's topic will be loneliness and isolation, and it's on Zoom at 12 p.m. Tuesday evening this week, the worship arts team meets at 7 p.m. If you'd like to join the team for one meeting or more to discuss ideas you may have for services, etc., you are more than welcome. Just email minister@muff.org and Allison will send you the information for joining. Our next Odyssey is planned for next week, featuring Elbjorg Birkenkamp. Stay tuned for, possible schedule changes. While the Odyssey follows the second service on the first Sunday of the month, it could move to later in the month. The Odyssey program is our monthly chance to hear the stories of one of our members and their sense of what is involved in leading a meaningful life. The video presentation is followed by a time of Q&A. The Lunch Bunch will resume meeting the second Sunday of February. And finally, our collection today is going 50% to support New Jersey Together and our Morris area chapter. We invite you to give generously via text, via our website, www.muuf.org, or via cash in our baskets, checks in our baskets, or checks in the mail. Once again, welcome to newcomers and long-timers. We're so glad to be here together on this bright, snowy Sunday morning. And now, if you would join me in reading the words to our chalice lighting by James Villa Blake. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now if you would turn to responsive reading number 437 in your gray songbooks, those of you who are in the room. Allison will be reading along with you in the italicized section of the text. Let us worship. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips.
Let us love the world through heart and mind and body.
We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters.
We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life.
We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, and the anguish behind cruelty.
All life flows into a great common life if we will only open our eyes to our companions.
Let us worship not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears.
Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings, with the full outstretching of our spirits.
Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body, To those who have fallen in love with life,
Let us worship and let us learn to love.
And now we will have our opening song. Stearns will give us directions about how that's going to go.
Your directions are as follows. Folks at home, sing with gusto and happily, and folks in the room, I invite you to hum behind your masks. With gusto. All gusto welcomed. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined. With body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
So part of being together in service is about the being together, about holding space together. And there are so many ways in which we practice our faith, our theology as Unitarian Universalists together. And one of them is following teachers of various prophets and teachers. And one of those teachers who we lost a week and a half ago is Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist monk who has shared many ways of enlightenment and peace. And so for our time for our all ages, we read a book. We'll read a book about mindful movements, and then we're going to do the movements. So some participation coming on up here. Let us read here. This is Thich Nhat Hanh. His friends call him Thai. He's a Vietnamese monk. Thich Nhat Hanh grew up in Vietnam at a time where there were a lot of conflict and violence. And he was exiled because of his outspoken peace activities during the Vietnam War. Thich Nhat Hanh saw that it was very important for each person to practice finding peace within themselves. So in 1982, he founded Plum Village, a community of monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen in the southwest of France. When people have peace in themselves, then there is peace in the world. This is our practice every day. One way we can develop peace, people can develop peace in themselves, is just by sitting quietly and breathing. And this is called meditation. With each in-breath, we notice we are breathing. And with each out-breath, we can notice we are breathing out. And when we breathe like this, our body and our mind come together. And when our body and our mind are together, we are capable of living life more fully. And we are able to enjoy what is going on in and around us each moment. And it often helps to meditate with other people. Sitting together, breathing together, we can feel very peaceful and happy. But sometimes we need to stop sitting in one place and start moving around. So Thich Nhat Hanh has developed exercises called the 10 mindful movements. The practice of the mindful movements is to bring awareness and enjoyment to our bodies and into the movements we make with our bodies. Mindful movements are very simple, but very deep. And they have been taught and practiced in Plum Village for decades. The exercises are easy to do at home by yourself or with others. You can do them inside or outside in the park. You can do them every day or just once in a while. Do each movement 4 times before moving to the next one, and have fun. So, I'm going to invite you all, I'm going to move myself over here, to stand up. And if you're at home, you can do these as well. We're going to do the 10 movements. To begin, stand with your feet firmly on the ground, shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, but not locked. Stand upright and relaxed. Your shoulders are loose. Imagine an invisible thread is attached to the top of your head and pulls it towards the sky, keeping your body straight. Tuck your chin in slightly so that your neck can rest. Let's practice a bit of conscious breathing. Make sure that your feet are placed firmly on the earth, your body is centered, and your back is straight. And allow your in-breath to come down into your belly. Then exhale completely. Continue breathing slowly, aware of each in-breath and out-breath. Smile and enjoy standing like this for a moment. Now, we'll do our movements. So the first one is very simple. We'll take our arms, we'll just bring them up in front of us. As we bring them up, we breathe in. And as we bring them down, we breathe out. In. Out. In. And out. Our next movement is a little bit different, but kind of similar. Starting with our hands at our side, we're going to bring our arms with our thumbs towards the sky and reach up as high as we can. Breathing in and out as we come down. In all the way up. And out as we come down. In. Out. One more time. In and out. Our next movement, we're going to reach our hands out. And as we breathe in, we're going to curl our arms in like this. And then out. In. And out. In. And out. In. And out. The fourth movement, we're going to do some big arm circles, and as we come up, we're going to breathe in, and behind us and out, breathe out. Again, breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in, and breathe out. Time, breathe in, Breathe out. For our fifth movement, we're going to roll kind of our torso. So we're going to bend over at the waist and roll around, breathing in towards the back, and then breathe out as we roll forward. Then we're going to reverse it, breathing in, back, and breathe out, coming forward. Reverse again, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Number 6 is called the frog. It's a little tricky, but we do these practices as best as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect, because it won't be perfect up here. So we stand up on our tippy toes with our heels together, and we are going to squat like this lady in the pink. Breathing in, coming down, and then get up, breathe in, out. If you need to put your heels on the ground, breathe in, that's okay. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Number 7, we're going to reach over, bend over at the waist again, reaching down as far as you can, whatever that is. Breathe in, coming up, and out, going down. Again, breathing in, and down. In, and down. One more time. Come up. Number 8, it's a little bit of a kick. And so you will lift up your leg. You need some balance on this. So you can steady yourself on a chair if you need to. And we'll lift our leg up and kick out. Breathing in. Bring it back down. Breathing out. In and down. In, down. One more time. Out and in, the last side. I'm going to do one more balancing one, but this is a little bit easier. We're going to make circles with our legs. So we'll do out, breathe in, back to breathe out. The other side, out, breathe in, back, breathe down. Out, in, out, in, out. And then number 10, we're going to do 4 to each side. You're going to step out with your leg, kind of lunge, reach out, breathing in, down, in, and down, and in, and out. One more time, in, and out. And we're going to do it to the other side. In, and out, and in, and out, in, and one more, in, and out. We'll come and we'll stand as we started, taking a couple of breaths in and out, noticing how your body feels, how your mind feels, how the breath's coming in and out feel. enjoy your breathing and enjoy the day. You can all sit down. We're now going to collect our offering, and Stearns is going to offer some lovely piano music.
Good morning. I think I'm having a midlife crisis. I know, but Stearns, I hear you cry. You can't possibly be old enough for a midlife crisis. Well, I'll have you know I'm 37 and a half. And I do find myself looking around, doubting every life decision I've made, wondering where I'm headed, what I've accomplished, and of course, the telltale sign of a midlife crisis, I bought a new car. Based on my symptoms, Dr. Google tells me I might be experiencing, or at least approaching, something like a midlife crisis. Like everything these days, these ideas surfacing in my head probably have more than a little to do with the pandemic and the state of affairs in our country and our world. Wherever these annoying, unuseful thoughts come from, they love to burrow deep into my brain, trying their hardest to convince me that time has escaped me, that it's too late. Thankfully, I'm lucky to have two jobs that I love. One here at the Morristown UU Fellowship as your Director of Music Ministries, and another teaching voice and performance to undergraduate musical theater majors at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. While there are many, many, many differences in my roles in both of these institutions, there's one remarkable similarity. Both of my jobs involve planned, intentional time spent in a shared space on a weekly basis. Here at the Fellowship, we call this time worship, or Sunday service, or Sunday morning programs. At school, we call it voice lessons. Whatever we call it, it's time that we set aside to be together and to focus on what's important to us. In both places, what actually happens during that time can vary wildly. We might have any combination of a sermon, readings, ritual, prayer, of course, music. A voice lesson might be 30 minutes of singing, might be 30 minutes of therapy, might be a little of both. It is my belief that in both places, whatever happens in that room during that time, or this room, is what needed to happen that day. Period. Of course, it's not like you can just write intentional time on your calendar. Spaces like this are cultivated, not conjured. They're grown from trust, respect, and a deep compassion for all present. Compassion is contagious, from person, to place, to time. My students may not practice every day outside of their lessons, and hey, maybe you don't think about church stuff every day outside of our services. But isn't it wonderful that we do have this time when we can turn our attention and intention to what's really important to us as Unitarian Universalists, as a community, as humans? It's sort of strange that I have these two jobs that involve weekly events because I have a lot of trouble committing to doing something, anything, once a week. Establishing a routine involving intentional time for myself isn't something I usually grant myself permission for. I facilitate this time and create these spaces for others with regularity and ease. Why is it so hard for me to do it for myself? As I sat down to write this reflection, I got comfy on my couch with my laptop, and I put on my Deep Focus playlist, and I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, which was very difficult. Can I really dedicate the time this afternoon to do this? What if someone calls me? What if there's an important email? Obviously, I did put those thoughts aside and end up writing the reflection. And while the experience wasn't exactly what I would call worship, I was able to create a space and a time for myself, thanks to the Deep Focus playlist and the Do Not Disturb button, where I could turn toward what was important. Time with intention. So, how do we shape what is of worth? Time is of worth. How do we shape time? We set it aside. We infuse it with shared intention, compassion, connection, inspiration, experience. And then we keep doing it. When I look at time through this lens, things don't seem quite so bad. How lucky am I that I get to spend so many hours per week in these holy, compassion-filled spaces? I guess I'll postpone the midlife crisis indefinitely.
Thank you, Stearns. It is a joy to plan this time with you. It's the time in our service where we honor the milestones and passages that have happened in the lives of our fellow congregants. This morning, we didn't have any come forward or via email, but I do want to hold our neighbors to the north who received much more snow and much more wind than we did. So for all the individuals and families that may be without power or with frozen pipes and without water today, may they connect to the aid that they need. So we hold all who are impacted by the storm this morning. And I always love it, as you know, when a phone rings in the room, because it means probably what I just said was very important. So I really hope that they're connected to their needs today. We are going to join now in a time of prayer and reflective meditation, and it's going to be in praise of our 6 sources, the 6 sources which are connected to our 7 principles. And I'm going to invite Kathy Cacavalli to join me up here. She's going to light a candle for each source as we lift them up and meditate on the difference they make. And I just want to encourage you, when we talk about Unitarian Universalism and share with others, we so often share the covenant of our 7 principles and now the new 8th principle. Part of our covenant are these 6 sources which nourish our faith. I invite you into a time of reflection and praise. 1, personal experiences of mystery and wonder. We give thanks for the grandeur of creation, for a beautiful day when our grounds are covered in a blanket of snow, sparkling in the sunlight. Remember, when you walk out or roll out of your apartment or home, and you have to squint because the snow is so bright, know that there are dazzling experiences in our lives. We give thanks for mystery, for wonder, and for all the dazzling things. 2, wise people whose lives remind us to act for justice, compassion, and love. We give thanks for the prophets and for the ordinary people who find well springs of courage to be prophetic. Today, we lift up the peace activist, Thich Nhat Hanh, and we see reflected in his life our own possibilities to move towards greater compassion with conviction and with the deeds of our days. 3, the ethical and spiritual wisdom from the world's religions. We give thanks for this cathedral of the world of Unitarian Universalism, for the light which shines through so many windows. And today I'll name 2. The wisdom of Islam, which reminds us to ask the question, what will we submit our will to? What will guide our lives? Will it be love? Will it be compassion? What will it be? Or Buddhism, which reminds us to accept that suffering is a part of our human existence, and teaches us how we can cease the habits and actions that contribute to that suffering in our lives, in our neighbors' lives, and in the human family. May we grow in wisdom from these disparate and different traditions, and we cherish and give thanks for their part in our life. 4, Jewish and Christian teachings on God's love and loving our neighbors. We give thanks for the opportunity to serve along our interfaith partners in Morris County and beyond. And we lift up RAMP, the Refugee Assistance Morris Partners, with whom we organize to help refugees from Afghanistan to settle here in our community so that they may build lives of meaning and purpose right here among us. And we lift up New Jersey Together, our interfaith partners who we are supporting through our collection today. May we grow with them in our ability to address racial disparities in criminal justice, to increase affordable housing, and to expand access to health care for every neighbor in our community. And 5, humanist teachings on the use of reason and the discovery of science. We give thanks for the discoveries that the researchers are making right now around COVID-19, for vaccines and for medicines which alleviate the symptoms of the virus, for the healthcare professionals who care with compassion and presence, but also with the aid of science and medicine. And we hold all those for whom a cure or vaccine has come too late, the ones who sit with empty chairs this winter. May they find comfort and be met with the light of compassion. We give thanks for the difference that science and reason makes in our lives and in our world. And 6, earth-centered teachings on living in harmony with nature. We give thanks for our Mother Earth, for our connection to the land, to the sky, to the seas. We know that we are one. And we vow as we look out this day when our children were sledding right behind us on the expanse of frozen water with glee. We vow not just to enjoy and play and sled and splash in the waters, but to be water protectors and to ensure that all people and all creatures have access to clean drinking water. We vow to care for our earth and to feel deeply our connection to her, especially on a glorious, dazzling day. We give thanks for these 6 sources which enrich our lives and are a blessing. May each one of us live more deeply into their teachings, into their offerings. Amen, and blessed be, and may it be so.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. I remember singing those words as a teenager in a hotel ballroom in Hollywood, Florida. It was midnight, and at our age, that seemed like the perfect time for a worship service. There were probably 80 of us in attendance, youth from all over the country and Canada. Given that we were at General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, it was also notable that there were at least as many different senses of style as there were people in that room. Everything from pearls and cardigans to blue hair and creative piercings to handmade outfits. The one common denominator was that we all had bare feet, having been asked to take off our shoes. Actually, quite an intimate thing in a group of people that you had just met 4 days earlier. The room was lit by the glow of 80 tea lights in front of every person in attendance, and a ceramic flaming chalice in the center of our human circle. The candlelight danced off of the enormous blue paisley patterned scarf with flecks of silver, which reached to the four corners of the room with an object placed at each to remind us of the elements: earth, water, air, and fire. To tell you the truth, with the lights during the daytime at a business meeting I attended in that same space, it had seemed rather sterile. And so it was all the more surprising to see it transfigured into holy ground through chanting, fire, and all the elements, the beauty of an adorned fabric, the beauty of so many different kinds of people, and many more expressions of the human spirit than I was used to seeing in my smaller youth circle in Manhattan. How strangely connected I suddenly felt to all of humanity and to all of nature. A deep sense that what coursed through my veins was the very same source of life that coursed through the body of earth. A deep sense that we were in the presence of a spirit that bound us together in that room, and yet always moved with us in other spaces where we were less aware. Yes, dare I say it, in a sterile ballroom, the holy crept into all the crevices of that place, and by the end, we were dancing, and I could feel the warmth of where our bodies had been sitting under my bare feet. It was so magnificent to feel so aware, so alive, to find myself awake at midnight, and to see that all that had preceded that moment was slumber. Later, I remember reading a commentary about holy ground. It went back to one of what I call a first story, to the image of Moses and the burning bush. He too was suddenly deeply aware of a connection to the universe and all that is holy. He too was asked to take off his sandals in God's presence. Rather than dressing up, sacred space invites us to share fully who we are, right down to the toes of our being. What is also important about that biblical account is that, as in the case of my story, the mountain on which Moses stood seemed perfectly ordinary until that encounter. It was what happened there between Moses and God, an awareness, a fiery call to serve his people in the name of love and justice, hope and mercy, and 1,000 other names that caused the consecration of the ground. And now, to this day, many stories are told about that very place, on which holy encounters have been layered generation after generation. Sometimes a place that is sterile can be transformed. Sometimes a place in nature comes to be revered. Sometimes humans locate a spot and create a temple, a church, a mosque, a fellowship, a labyrinth, a cairn of stones. Human beings need these kinds of spaces that remind us where we come from and where we are destined to go. We are made of the 4 holy elements, and to them we shall return. The truth is that the holy touches all spaces of earth, for it is infinite. Or if you prefer, the fountain of wisdom that equates with enlightenment is contained in and by all that is and ever will be. However, as finite human beings, we need to erect spaces that call to us, take off your shoes and feel the embrace of my warmth. Take off all the illusions you have put on that separate you from the rest of humanity and separate you from the earth, the place of your birth and the place of your ultimate rest. Stop here a while and let me whisper or shout or sing to you of your charge. Serve with your people in the name of love, justice, hope, mercy, and thousands of other virtuous names. This space, both the physical space of our sanctuary and the virtual space of your phone, tablet, or computer bringing you here, is holy ground, not just because of its physical elements, such as the octagonal shape that was created to counter the notion of a front or a back. This room can be arranged and rearranged so that any point could become front. Wisdom does not just come from one direction, but from everywhere. And you feel that in this space. It is, though, holy ground because of what we do here and how we order time in that space. We gather for worship on Sundays, sometimes on weekdays, as well as for the worships or milestone ceremonies, where we celebrate the beginning of life in a child dedication, or the end of life at a memorial, or the vows between people as they choose to unite their hearts in marriage. And not just this room, but so many corners of this wider space. Our labyrinth behind me, our terrace room, which used to be the sanctuary, our memorial garden, and so many other spots. Recently, one of our weekly discussion groups called Lunch with Your Principals asked me to join them for a conversation on this topic. What does worship mean to Unitarian Universalists? A quick note, I know that some people in our fellowship wrestle with a word like worship, having come out of traditions where worship specifically meant worshiping God. But I can tell you, as a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, we have a broader understanding of worship. Unitarian Universalists look to the roots of the word worship, which comes from the Old English worthscape, which means worth shape or shaping what is of worth. We gather to glean inspiration from our highest ideals, to cultivate resilience, to face the challenges of our lives and our world, and to connect with beauty, community, humanity, divinity. It is our hope that the shape of this time and place will lift up before us what is worthy, and that we will go forth ready to shape our lives, which also exist in time and space, in the direction of what is more just, loving, and true. Historically, our fellowship used the word Sunday morning program rather than Sunday service or worship to emphasize that we are more inclusive, people who believe in God and people who don't believe in God partake in our worship service. But just as Thich Nhat Hanh has shared that Buddhists also pray, which he said surprises some people who associate prayer with a Christian notion of praying to God for intervention, we Unitarian Universalists worship, and we have from the very beginning of our existence. We have a challenge in this country, which many of you will recognize. It's called Christian hegemony, and even more, Orthodox Christian hegemony, which means that the Christian religious right dominates our understanding around religious words, practices, and ideals. We cannot cede these words, practices, and ideals. They are rightfully ours to claim. So please know that worship is not limited to what Orthodox Christians or even just Christians believe it to be. What we do on Sundays is worship together. We have programmed a worship service at this time. So for the people who prefer the word program, no problem. Say that. But please don't counter others who use the word worship by telling them worship is only about God. You are imposing another tradition's definition onto our tradition. Buddhists and Unitarian Universalists have a right to pray and to worship. And I'll mention one thing. When newcomers come here or when I meet people in the community, that word program is so broad that many people have asked, do we do anything like a service on Sunday morning? So sometimes the other words can be helpful in opening a doorway into our house, so to speak. Let's go more deeply into the dimensions of time and space of worship. As Reverend John Buren's former UUA president and one of my ministers growing up has shared, worship must reach out and stretch us in different directions, involving height, depth, breadth, behind, and also forward. The arrangement of space and the order of service, including the spoken word, music, silence, ritual, are what moves us from one direction to another. Worship has height. It helps us to touch the transcendent. Music that makes your spirit soar, words that help us to celebrate life, rituals that open us up to the mystery, and everything which allows us to touch what we believe is holy. Worship has depth. It helps us to both be rooted and to wrestle and acknowledge our grief and the brokenness in our world. A spiritual practice like prayer or meditation or a chant might be what grounds us. The stories or the sermon or the music might break the silence of our personal pain or our communal grief or the collective realities of oppression. And I'll mention next week our service is about reproductive justice. Worship has breadth. It moves us outward in the direction of community. It is inviting and inclusive. It points towards the community in this room, and it ripples out to the wider human family. How do we do that? Through language and through intention. Things like breaking the gender binary and thinking of how to welcome and include newcomers through representation, through story, song, sources in a service, and over time, through various services. We do this also through lighting our flaming chalice, which unites us with our UU siblings all around the globe. Worship stretches behind us. It's built on tradition. The covenant that we shared by James Philip Blake this morning and that we share so often was written in 1894. Since 1894, Unitarian Universalists have committed their lives to service, to building peace, to a spirit of love. Worship beckons us forward. Like our spiritual theme of the year depicted on the banner behind me, it urges us to keep on moving forward or upward through that mountain or set of hills where you can't see everything, and yet you have a sense. It is an aspirational calling for us to co-create a brighter future in our individual lives, here together, and in our wider county, country, and global village. And I would add one other dimension to the ones that John Buren's lifted up. Worship is imminent. It moves us inward to listen to our still, small voice, as we heard in the song right before this sermon. Worship helps us to hone the ability to hear it and to be able to find the courage to follow it once we leave this place. Worship stretches us upwards, roots us downwards, turns us inwards, opens us outwards, reminds us to look backwards, and inspires us to move forwards. Or, if you are a scientist, I could tell you that worship exists on the X, Y, and Z axis. There you go. Or it's like a cube as well. Worship is about ordering space and time in ways that invoke and invite encounters with what is holy or sacred. It opens us up to a path of wisdom or transformation. And here at our fellowship, such a powerful thing about the ordering of space and time is that this room is constantly transformed in terms of how it is oriented, and our order of service can change from one week to the next. So we also encounter the holy through creativity here. And we look to the light through many windows of the cathedral and through many people's spiritual paths. Today, you've heard reflections from our Director of Lifespan Faith Development, from our Director of Music Ministries, and from your minister. But we also get to have the holy refracted through our lay leaders. And there are so many lay voices that have graced this pulpit since it was built in 1955. There is a wonderful Hasidic story about the child of a rabbi who used to wander in the woods. At first, his father let him wander, but over time, he became concerned. The woods were dangerous. The father did not know what lurked there. He decided to discuss the matter with his child. One day, he took him aside and said, "You know, I have noticed that each day you walk into the woods. I wonder, why do you go there?" The boy said to his father, "I go there to find God." "That's a very good thing," the father replied gently. "I'm glad you are searching for God, but my child, don't you know that God is the same everywhere?" "Yes," the boy answered, "but I'm not the same everywhere." I resonate completely with the point of view of that boy. It is true that we Unitarian Universalists do not believe that some lands and places or even times are set aside as sacred while others are profane. Yet it is also true that certain spots and certain orderings of time invoke in me a deeper awareness of the holy, or of my connection with nature or humanity or the universe itself. I have caught that spark of awakeness and awareness. I have felt that spirit of love moving through this room, through a sterile ballroom at midnight, in the labyrinth behind us, and in so many spots around our state of New Jersey and even the world. So friends, Unitarian Universalists worship. They worship the heights and the depths and the breadths of what it means to be alive. And we have a right and the freedom to claim and celebrate its place in our lives. Amen, and so may it be. Our closing song is Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
So just a reminder, if you would like to be a part of creating an upcoming lay-led service or any worship service we have programmed on a Sunday morning, I invite you to join us on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Just email me, minister@muuf.org, and I'll send you the link to join. We would love to have you. And now in our going, may the light of that spirit of love bless us and keep us. May it shine down upon us. May it be felt deep within us. May it radiate out from within us, and may it grant of us all peace builders, joy creators, artists of the spirit and of transformation. For today is the day that you and I are given So let us plant seeds of joy and justice in it, and go forth knowing that you are blessed, and share your light, your blessing with the world. Blessed be.